Yeah.
First time I met her, I said, well, have you been to college? She said, no, I'm going to be living in Charleston. I said, that's a shame, y'all won't be together. A couple of months later, she said,
This time we will have Mr. Loftus, if he will do the invocation and pledge allegiance.
Lord, we humbly come before you, asking for your wisdom and your guidance as we go about the people's business. Help us to achieve the most good for the most people and be fair to all that come before us. We ask this in your holy name. Amen. Attention to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. There's nothing for the input, so need a motion for the approval of the agenda content.
so moved.
Second.
All in favor? Approval of minutes from November 4, 2020.
Seconded.
All in favor? All right, we have a public hearing, fireworks prohibition zone for Heather Glen Community Association. Marshall Schultz.
Good morning. I'm Marcia Schultz. I'm the Board of Directors President for the Heather Glen community. Today we're asking that our neighborhood be designated a fireworks-free zone. While fireworks may bring some joy to some, they harm others, shaking the peace of our community, frightening our pets, and disturbing the bald eagles and other wildlife that we are proud to protect. Many of our veterans live with PTSD, and a sudden explosion of fireworks can force them to relive painful memories. We want to keep our neighborhood quiet, safe, and welcoming to all. Please help us preserve the quality of life and natural beauty we all cherish. Thank you.
I guess everybody else.
Anybody else here wants to speak? All right, we'll have public input on the public hearing.
Anybody else wants to speak?
What is the public hearing? What is the information? What is it about?
Fireworks for Heather Glen.
No, thank you.
All right. We need to make a vote.
Do you want me to vote on it?
Just close the public hearing and we can.
All right, this time we'll close the public hearing for the fireworks. You need a motion on it?
No, sir.
Huh?
No.
No, sir.
All good?
You want to give them a second to exit then, because you don't need them anymore, correct?
We don't-
If you're here for Heather Glen,
Yes.
that's it. Y'all are welcome to stay or leave if you want to.
Thank you
Okay?
so much. Thank you.
we're all good. Next, we have Chief Linhart to submit and accept the award of grant to the South Carolina Department of Public Safety for school resource officers for 2027.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Pleasure to be here for you today as we continue to grow our SRO program for the County Police Department. You'll see before you a memorandum to extend the SRO program, 7 high schools and a total of 8 middle schools through the state's fully funded grant program. I'd like to submit.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we move forward with staff's recommendation.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. And you have the next one.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, I also have, and members of the committee also have before you today a resolution for our recently departed Officer Eddie Martin to declare his service weapon surplus and to issue that to his family member.
So moved. Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Next, we have our new Public Safety Director, Ms. Renee Hardwick.
Thank you, sir. Good morning. What I'm bringing before you is our postal cooperative, which is our EZINet that allows us to have connection between other public safety entities along the coastline. Basically, we're just cleaning it up. We're removing Georgetown, who was originally offered a partnership and declined, and we're adding Dorchester and Florence County, I believe. to it. It's just a cleanup of the document, and the chairman wanted it to come before this committee for an approval of a resolution. I'll be glad to answer any questions you got.
I'd like to make a motion, we move forward with staff's recommendation.
All in favor?
Aye.
We good?
I think I'm next.
Yep.
Again?
Mhm. Riverfest celebration.
I'm sorry. So this is about I'm sorry, the agenda is not, I'm not following the agenda. It's expressing support of Conway Chamber of Commerce for the Riverfest celebration. I apologize.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we move forward with this.
I'll second.
All in favor?
So even after 43 years, you can have nerves.
Can we
It's
quiz?
important to you.
Mr. Chairman, can I quiz our assistant administrator? Can you tell us, well, since you're all right, you got this. Are we moving forward on getting our radios scrambled? Last year we talked about improving our radios. And if now is not the time, if you don't know.
I'm going to bring Dale Miller up, who's the manager of the
Excellent.
radio system and department head.
Thank you. To answer your question, we're about 90 to 95% there. It was a large undertaking, had to get a lot of radios up to the capability to do this new encryption. We're almost there. It will impact all public safety radios that are dispatched to law enforcement, that are dispatched by Horry County 911. Myrtle Beach has just bought 450 radios, and they're wanting to go AES encrypted as well. They were already at a software encryption. They're wanting to join us and go into a hardware, a federal compliant encryption standard. I feel certain that North Myrtle Beach is going to be soon following that, and that will encompass the majority of Horry County. CCU itself is looking to make a major radio purchase that will just about complete the entire county.
In a nutshell, at this time and back a year ago, if the police were talking to each other on the radio, the bad guys were listening to the radio chatter as well.
Yes.
But what's going to happen now is the police will be talking to each other on these new radios, and they'll only be talking amongst the police officers. The bad guys don't know they're on the way or don't know where they're going because they
Correct.
can't understand the conversations.
That will be correct. Not only bad guys, but anybody with a receiver, a scanning receiver of any type. This encryption will prohibit and prevent them from hearing any conversation.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
All right. We move on to Ms. Laura Woods, declaring April 14, 20 National Telecommunicator Week.
Good morning, everyone. So the resolution you have before you is proclaiming April 12th through the 18th of 2026 as National Telecommunicator Week. It's a chance for us to honor our 911 specialists. You know, they have that vital link between our responders and the community, and this is just an opportunity for us to honor them for their service.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion, we move forward with staff's recommendation to recognize our 911 telecommunicators.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Good, thank you. Now we have Mr. Jimmy Richardson, crime and crime victim, right, 1920.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Pass out. I get asked all the time, what do you do during the course of a day? And if you have to think about it, it comes and goes so quick you don't even remember really what went on. But Mr. Chairman, that is a snapshot of just 2025 cases. And I was talking to Scott before I came over here today, and I'll guarantee you that Greenville or Spartanburg or no other county has moved 18 murders in 1 year, either by plea or trial, either through murder or manslaughter. That's 18 of them, and I've listed them there. You'll see on there some of note that Ronnie Todd, a double murder out of Georgetown, he got life. That coroner case that drug on forever, She got life. There's an armed robbery for, this guy sent a cash out to his girlfriend from the armed robbery site. He got life. That was the easiest one on here. Planet Fitness murder is Abdullah Stafula there. And you'll see 45 years all the way down to 15. There's rapes, there's cold case rapes, trafficking fentanyl, 25 years, several of those on there. That was all last year. Also, that's just a handful of them, but you'll see that we moved 1,500 more, 1,700 more cases last year than we brought in. So we reduced the backlog. We're nowhere. It's a big thing for the state, worried about backlog, and we're not even in the top 10, even though we're one of the largest counties as far as size, population, and charges coming through. But we also put 313 new participants in drug court. That moved 750 some warrants, and they graduated over 265 of those people. Treatment court has a little bit over 200 right now. Just a snapshot at last year, but when you look back at it in those kind of numbers, it's pretty incredible that the team members that we've got not only in the office, but our working relationship with the bar, with the sheriff's office, with the clerk's office, public safety in general, all of the different police departments. These guys are really doing something right, and it's easy to get caught up in trying to figure out, what took place, and it kind of washes over you. But you've got a snapshot of it there. You can go back and read over them, but again, as they come in from week to week or month to month, it kind of, I couldn't even remember. This year, we've already tried a murder case and moved that case that sort of started at Myrtle Beach with the shooter at maybe in May of last year. Come in and backed up Myrtle Beach. Well, that guy, not on this list because it took place in January, but that's 20 years on that. The crowd's doing a really good job, and of course, we could not do it just from the solicitor's office. It takes, I've never come to county council and asked for anything that y'all, public safety and county council didn't give us. We don't ask a lot, but we're well supported, and we really appreciate it, and we wanted y'all to get a snapshot of what we were doing. Is there any questions, Mr. Chairman?
Really?
Yes, sir.
How can we help you more?
If it ain't broke, let's don't fix it. We're just gonna continue doing what we're doing, and I'll let you know, Mr. Anderson, but we don't need a thing. I think
A couple of weeks ago, they were talking about the human trafficking in South Carolina, and I appreciate the great work between your office, our awesome county police department, and our awesome sheriff, because we weren't mentioned on the top, in the top three. It was somebody else finally, and I think it's due to your great work. I appreciate all y'all.
it is a lot of work. It's a lot of police work, and if you think about it, there ain't but about 3 spots in the state that you could even have nobody's trafficking to Barnwell. There's a lot of counties that don't have enough trafficking to, you gotta have a population center. So to not be in the top 3 is a really good thing. There ain't but about 4 of us, Charleston, with population center. Oh, yeah, thank you. Renee has already earned her money. I do want to ask y'all to consider, you did this last year, but a resolution for the week of April 19th through the 25th is Crime Victims Week. If we get a positive passing here and present it to council last year, county council named that week Crime Victims Week and had a plaque. We'll provide a plaque that week, Mr. Chairman.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right. Quarters end of year update, Mr. Robert Edge.
Chairman, good to see you today and everybody else here. I have a few figures for the last, I think, 5 years on our deaths. Starting in 2022, we had 3,526 deaths. In 2025, we're up to 4,870 deaths. Majority of these are drug overdoses, gunshots followed behind that, and probably car accidents. And the favorite drug of choice is still fentanyl. And going back to 2025, we had 9 cases out of that are still pending. Narcan has done a lot to help prevent this. Fire and EMS has a program that's done a lot to help prevent it too. And of course, the police work does a lot too. So it's kind of a joint effort that comes together to prevent a lot of these deaths. And everyone they can prevent is somebody who will live a little bit longer. I have a lady with me today, Dr. Renee Causey, who does a lot of work with Favor, and it's an opioid prevention organization. Just stand up. Just wanted to introduce her. She's never been to a public safety meeting before, so just to introduce her and make her aware of what's going on too.
Any questions for me? Don?
Mr. Edge, is any way we can help you? We gave you some money to build an addition and you got more customers.
We might need that pretty soon. We might.
Speak for yourself, Paul. All right. Now we have Sheriff Thompson.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, sir.
Morning.
Howdy. Thank you for inviting me today and asking me to give you a little update on what we've done for the last year in 2025. And like our solicitor said and our coroner said, we appreciate the working relationship with all of you and how you've helped us out through it. I'm going to show you some numbers of some of the things that we've done during the past year and end up probably asking you for some more stuff. So, but last year, 2025, we served our field operations division served a little over 2,200 arrest warrants. And our arrest warrants, the warrants are transmitted from throughout the county to our warrant division at the detention center, and also out of county, out of state warrants that come in for people that's wanted in the area. And we house them there and put them in the system so when someone that interacts with other law enforcement throughout the county, they can access and find out that there's a warrant called the detention center or have the warrant. So we have the warrant there when folks get to the detention center. We served over 9,000 civil papers. Now, when you're talking about serving a civil paper, that's not just one service. That can be up to 3 different services on the same individual. So you see how many papers that we're out there and we're serving. There's a lot going on in the county. Performed 521 escorts, and what we're talking about on escorts is funerals, dignitaries, different things that may come up and people call for special security or different details. But figures 365 days in a year, we perform 521 escorts, so we're out there now. This, by doing this service, means so much to the families of the people that we do funerals for. You would not believe the letters, cards, emails that people send to us of appreciation that Horry County serves the citizens that well. People from out of town come in and they're just amazed at what that does. And it gets us from point A to point B in a safe manner. So we take great pride in doing that. Our sex offender registry, we currently have 645 active sex offenders on our sex offender registry. That requires that we go out and do address verifications on the different offenders to make sure they are where they say they're at. If they will file and give us an address of a parent or a family member and then not be staying there, it's our duty, our responsibility to go out and verify, because It's extremely important that our records are accurate, up to date, and for people checking our registry, for people in their area, around their schools, their daycare centers, and things of that nature. So we conducted 1,300 verifications this past year to verify that these sex offenders are where they said they were. J. Reuben Long, we're going to be talking about that later on in the day, but we had over 13,000 people come register with us in the past year out of the detention center.
Busy front desk.
I'm sorry?
That's a busy front desk.
It is a busy front desk. 1,300 inmates were booked in the J. Reuben Long. And when you see where it says transported 6,858 inmates, our transportation division, we transport for folks that are sentenced to the different parts of the state where they're sentenced to go to. We also transport back and forth to court, from the detention center to the courthouse. We assist with local law enforcement agencies with picking up inmates at North Myrtle Beach, Myrtle Beach, where they're placed under arrest. They're placed there. We will pick up and bring to J. Reuben Long. So a lot of miles, a lot of travel on that. Somebody got to show me which button I'm at. There it is. Oh boy, did good. I really want to take this opportunity to highlight some of our lesser known but important functions that we do at the Sheriff's Office. We are on the Internet Crimes Against Children's Task Force, which is a task force with the Attorney General's office. We have seen, and what we're doing is cyber, or where going on, people that's on the internet, cyber, attracting young people. We saw a 27% increase in tips this past year. We served 92 search warrants, made 26 arrests. That county police just joined in with doing that. The more we can get doing that, the better off we are. Because I'm going to tell you, this is really something that as we get involved in it, it seems to be more and more and more, and it just keeps growing. So we did assign another investigator to that team this past year. We also have deputies assigned to 5 different task forces. We have them on the U.S. Marshals Task Force, DEA Task Force, FBI Task Force, Secret Service, and Home HSI. Now what this does is we have a person that's assigned to their task force that works with them. And what we do with that is we're involved. They have obviously certain resources that we don't have, and by them working with them, it builds that partnership with our federal authorities, and it goes into the state authorities and with us, and it just makes our units work so much better, and we're able to get information. I get a tip comes into the sheriff's office, I give it to our task force officer, he gives it to them, and they start an investigation. They look into it to see if it warrants an investigation. It has been extremely beneficial. As you can see, we've had 102 arrests based on charges within working with these task force. Had 103 indictments before the grand jury. Our community corrections and enforcement team, we formed that. It's called home detention. You probably heard us talk about it. It's based out of the detention center. But it consists of 5 deputies. I hope we can share more with you later on this, but what we're able to do is if someone is let out on bond, or they go before a judge for a bond, and they're placed on home detention. Now, we're one of the few counties in the state that do our very own. When a person is placed on home detention, they are not housed within the detention facility. They're at home. Our team goes out, they inspect the home, they go through it, they make sure there's not any weapons, alcohol, they do a screen on the house. There's certain rules and guidelines that they have to go by. to be on home detention. Last year, we had 136 individuals that was on home detention. Our figure that we've done, ironically, $6 a day to house an inmate at J. Reuben Long Detention Center. I don't know how we got the same number twice, but we did. But if you multiply 136 times $136, that's how much money that it's not costing us to house this individual. But we do compliance checks. We did a little over 300 compliance checks this past year. We seized seizure of illegal drugs, guns, and involving both folks on home detention and also criminal charges out of the detention center. But this unit is the one that does the investigations on all that. We utilize the Sheriff's Office as a support agency for other law enforcement. We assist the other law enforcement agencies within Horry County, your municipalities, County PD, Highway Patrol. They call for assistance. We're always out there. We're helping them. As a matter of fact, we had 20 calls for service just in the month of January. And we're able to assist with the other law enforcement agencies. City of Myrtle Beach, we provide additional help for them 6 months out of the year, on weekends over the beach. There it is. We launched the, of course, public safety, Horry County. We did the new P1 system. By doing the new P1 system this past year, we were able to incorporate and better utilize that system for our civil process. And we set up our different sectors where we can track it. It's less paperwork and more digital work, and it has really helped us tremendously by doing it. So thank you all for helping us get the new P1 system up. We implemented a special response team this year. And what this does is we have certain folks within our organization that we train to assist us with high-risk evictions, high-risk arrest warrants, and barricaded subjects. That happens more than you would actually realize, and it's important that we got that specialized training, that when we have one of these come up, that these folks respond and be trained and ready to help with that. We relocated our sex offenders office over from the historical courthouse. We went over to the Thompson Law Firm building, and that has been a great asset for us. It's given us more space, and we're also able to utilize our training division. We moved our training division over there, and we got more space. So thank you all for helping us do that. Folks, I want to finish up with telling you how much I appreciate what y'all have done for the Sheriff's Office. You remember about 3 years ago, I came before you. As a matter of fact, then Administrator Gosnell and Assistant Administrator Spivey called me one day, and we had 64 vacancies at J. Reuben Long Detention Center. And asked me what they could do to help and assist with us, what they could do and what could be done to fill these vacancies and go forward. And we met with them, we came up with a plan, and I came before you council members. And we came up with a plan on what it would take. And what you did was, you raised the salary of the corrections officer to be equal with law enforcement. Their duties and responsibilities are great. There's a lot of folks, being a detention officer is not, it's not the job that folks just kind of run up and jump and happy to get involved in. It seems to be that they like law enforcement, but they shy away a little bit from detention. But by making it equal, what you told us was, you're just as important. Your job, your function, your role in keeping the citizens of Horry County safe, and your function in law enforcement is just as important. And y'all did that. I asked you, we showed you our figures and what we could do and how we could implement it. And we worked together, and that came to pass. Also went, not just I, myself and a couple other sheriffs from the state went before the legislature and asked that corrections officers' age requirement to become detention officer, corrections officer, be lowered to 18 instead of 21. The requirement then was 21. That bill passed. We hired a recruiter at the detention center and with the sheriff's office that attended job fairs, community events, and did some recruiting and talking. So if a person came out of high school at 18 years of age, did not plan to go to college but wanted to get in law enforcement, they could come in, they could get a job as a corrections officer at 18 years old. Get trained, get certified, get a job, get your benefits going, get your retirement started, and then at 21, if you wanted to progress and go from corrections into to the road, to law enforcement, you already got 3 years in the system. And I want you to know, that was 64 3 years ago. I have 6 positions vacant right now at J. Reed Long Detention Center for corrections officers. I probably have some other positions available, but we have 6 for corrections officers. They will be filled February the 23rd. I'll have a full slate. I also have a list, a hiring list prepared so when we get vacancies, we have someone to replace them. By us working together, by the cooperation with you as council, administration, and us at the sheriff's office, to be able to accomplish this, I am so very proud. But it wouldn't happen without all of us together. So to say thank you, just gives me the opportunity to say that. I have 1 position available at the sheriff's office. So we're full. We're staffed. We're ready to go. And I want to say before I sit down, I want to thank my solicitor. We have started back, I went to our solicitor and spoke to him, and I talked with some of our circuit court judges. We are now doing pleas at the detention center. We're able to, by going out and having the judges, solicitor's office, public defender's office, clerk's office, go to the detention center to hear these cases, we don't have to transport them downtown. It's a lot more convenient. It's a heck of a lot more safe and secure to do it that way. I think we had, Marcus, was it 65?
Yes, sir.
65 pleas in one day out there. That was 65 people we didn't have to bring downtown, and we didn't have to move. We were able to do it right there in that building. Of course, I fed them good now. I fed the judges good, and fed everybody good. So had the staff good, that way they didn't have to leave for lunch and get late getting back. But it's worked very well. So, Jimmy, thank you and your staff, and we're going to continue to do that. I have spoken with the judges, both the judges that are doing it, and they're honored to do it. But thank y'all for inviting me today to speak to you, and I appreciate each and every one of them. Any questions?
Very exciting news. Thank you for sharing with us. And I've got a challenge for you. Since you're doing so well and not having to tote as many people, you might have a few extra minutes. I would love for you to work with our police chief and determine how we could help our police officers, first responders, 911 operators, the people that get to deal with our citizens who are at their worst. How could we make things better for them? How could we offer more mental health support? I think in the last couple of weeks, we've really seen that our council is 100% behind mental health. How can we help you even more? So I challenge you.
I'm very glad to hear you say that, because that is one of our most serious challenges that we're facing today. And I think in the presentation that we're going to have later on today, you'll probably hear some of that.
Excellent.
In that presentation.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate y'all.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, sir. Just one, sir.
Back up again. Good morning. So I was asked to come up here and give a brief on some situations we had over the cold
spell that we've had, our number of animal calls during bad weather double, if not triple, especially during cold weather and extremely hot weather. During this cold weather break, we logged a bunch of extra calls, but we brought in extra people to handle those calls. But there's no room at the inn, as they say. The shelter is full. So what we try to do is we try to mitigate the situation. We have blankets, we have wood chips, we do housing, we do things to provide people that do not have the means so that they can become compliant with the law, so that we don't have to take the animals from them, so that they can maintain the animals and still be in compliance with the law, so that they can keep the animal, but it is in a safe environment during these brief cold snaps that we do have sometimes in January. To that point is that we are working on an education campaign, as always, to try to educate the community, because that's what it's about. It's about telling the community, hey, this is coming. This is how you keep your animals warm. Those that choose to keep your animals outside, and they have to maintain the minimum housing as per our ordinances. So that is kind of an update on where we're at as far as our cold weather. And that's an every year thing. It's not just a this year, that's an every year. And it's not just a cold, we get it at extreme hot times as well. So we up staff and we go out and we try to, knowing it's coming, get ahead of it, and we try to empower our community to help us by giving us those donations that we use to in turn give back out to the community, so that we can help those pets in need without having to take them into the shelter, which is already overcrowded. And to that point, I do want to say that we do have an adoption event at 209 Laurel Street this Friday from 12 to 3:30. If anybody's wanting an animal, we'd love to see you out there. Any questions?
Question, our current animal ordinance,
Yes, sir.
do you think it's sufficient enough to help you guys and stuff to enforce what needs to be enforced out there?
During our normal weather times, absolutely. During abnormal weather conditions, there's always going to be that one-off time where it's so cold that there's going to be, it doesn't quite fit, but that would be the one-off time, not the exception, not the general rule of.
What can we do to help y'all to change that and stuff? Could y'all go into the ordinance, research the ordinance, and see at where your needs are, and to bring back amendments and stuff to us and stuff that would help you?
We could look at lowering the or raising the temperature threshold so that animals have a higher threshold of sheltering at a lower temperature. We could absolutely go in there and look at that if that's your desire.
Just a thought and stuff, because I had a couple of calls, on some that come from the east side of the county, and so the west side of the county, folks are, it's a different environment out there. So I just, yeah. So just asking and stuff if we can change something to help you all.
We can look at that, and like I said, it's definitely for the colder and the hotter months of the year that it becomes an issue. 90% of the time, our laws are fine the way they are. It's just the hottest and the coldest months is where it sometimes can become problematic.
Okay, so we might need to tweak it a little bit there.
Yes, sir. We'll take a look at it.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Sam Howard?
Well, good morning, Chairman and council members. Going to do a quick overview of a series of exercises we had last year, kind of bring you up to speed of where we were. Last time I was up here, we did numbers and facts, kind of what we did during hurricane season. Had some great thoughts and comments on that, so thank you for that. So what I want to focus on today is lessons learned from 3 exercises that we had, which led into what we call a Power Back Summit with some of our utility partners, and kind of where the next plan for action. So last year we conducted 3 exercises we called Operation Stormfront, and we targeted 3 different groups of people. The first one was our Healthcare Coalition partners. We had roughly 12 different agencies and 20 people participate, And those range from the hospitals to EMS, public health, emergency management, long-term care providers and all. And we kind of went through the same scenario with all the different groups. The next group we had the same pretty much scenario with was our voluntary organizations active in disaster. Those are your Red Cross, Salvation Army, United Way, Horry County Council on Aging, our faith-based groups, and some of our nonprofits. And last but not least was our county departments all participated in the same exercise. Had probably about 100, 110 individuals participate throughout the whole series there. Scenario was Hurricane Jolene, which was a Category 3 storm, widespread power outages, and debris around Horry County. Some of the key takeaways that we picked up when we did our after-action report is the power restoration is critical to our county's recovery and operations. And some of the gaps that were kind of constant between these exercises was how do we disconnect and reconnect power when it comes to a disaster? And generator safety concerns, which we'll talk about a little bit more, is there's always issues when it comes to the generators that people are using at their homes, and communication between utility companies and our emergency operations center, making sure that we have that set up. And one of the other spinoffs was really between our utilities and our code enforcement is how do we better communicate the whole process when it comes to inspections and how we get from construction back to reconnection. So those were the outcomes of the 3 exercises, which led us back into what we call the Power Back Summit. And that was held on December 16th at Santee Electric. And we had roughly about 40 individuals. Some of you in this room participated in actually it wasn't an exercise, it was more of a summit. And that was Santee Cooper, Horry Electric, Duke Energy, along with some of our other service providers like Grand Strand Water and Sewer, Horry Telephone, some of the individuals that have part of that utility branch that's out there. And the focus on was restoring power safely and efficiently after disasters. Some of the major discussion points that we had, and it was more just an open discussion, we presented them with scenarios, and we worked through this with the outcome at the end is how do we make it better for the citizens of Horry County? The authority to disconnect power during an emergency event. Who has that authority to say, cut the power off, and who does not have that authority? So we walked through that process. How do we prioritize restoration when it comes to, is it the Emergency Operations Center, is it hospitals, is it our fire stations? What's that priority look like? We walked through that whole process. And how do we better communicate between the utility companies and the Emergency Operations Center to make sure that we're all sharing that same information? And generator safety is always a big issue, and we'll talk about that just a little bit more in a few minutes. And public safety messaging, making sure that we carry that same message from the utilities to our public safety partners to right on through the county. And we use past storm scenarios as the events to kind of prompt the conversation. So the key takeaways that we had from the summit was that we established consistent power restoration strategies across jurisdiction. We had the city of Myrtle Beach there, North Myrtle Beach, Conway, so making sure that we all do it the same way. So, because Myrtle Beach would do it a way, North Myrtle Beach maybe do it a separate way, so making sure we're all on the same page and we have that consistency on how do we restore power. Develop clear, concise protocols for disconnecting dwellings and preventing generator hazards. Different ordinances from different municipalities is how the generators are hooked up, who inspects them, making sure we streamline that process, especially with code enforcement, that we do it all the same way. And the consistent communications with our citizens, making sure we share that same message that's out there. That pretty much talks about some of the biggest takeaways from it. Pretty much this kind of just sums up emergency management's role. We convene all the partners together, we clarify the rules and what we're going to talk about, and turning lessons into issues. I've got you covered. So looking ahead, moving forward, the biggest key takeaways is to continue to build those relationships with the other agencies that are out there and making sure that we have that constant message. Because one of the biggest things that we've had, like Hurricane Helene, is that we had 9 deaths from that hurricane just from generator safety. So making sure we have that generator safety that's out there and get that messaging that's out there. That's kind of just wraps up the process that we had when it came to those 3 exercises in the summit with our utility companies. Any questions? Hearing none, we're good to go.
So, Mayor, we're gonna make a switch on the agenda here. We're gonna do her and then the.
Sam, you come back.
Get up, Sam.
It's the Sam Show.
Well, I want to take a moment and recognize Sam. He received the first ever Jerry Fleury Award at the South Carolina Emergency Management Association meeting this past week. This award aims to recognize individuals demonstrating exceptional leadership, innovation, dedicated to advancing healthcare resilience and readiness in the state. I could go on and on about Sam. He's had a lengthy career, but we really appreciate that he was the first to receive this award. Team Horry, but we're very proud of you, Sam, and we appreciate the hard work you do for us and keeping us safe and keeping us on track.
We try.
You do. You do a really great job.
We've got a subject matter for you today that we've been preparing for a period of time, and we have our consultants here with us to try to give us better information as our detention center. As the sheriff alluded to earlier, we do have some issues and some opportunities there. You may remember we first put this in our capital plan in 2021. Began the discussion about that time frame, and it continued in our capital plan till we have a placeholder, as we've called it, of roughly $60 million in our plan for this year. I'm here to tell you that's not enough. We did ask for money to actually do a study with the consultants to come in and help evaluate what is needed, and that's the purpose of introducing that to you here today. That is in place. 3 quick things I want to highlight as we move into this discussion are simply, and the sheriff alluded to it, medical services is a big impact to the change in how we have to care for our inmates. That is going to be presented in this study. The second thing is there's an order to how this could even occur. I've got to build capacity before I can renovate existing capacity because we're at capacity. So recognize that. You've got to build new capacity before you can actually do anything with the existing structure. And number 3 is that there's separation. You never are at full capacity. We could have a cell block with 24 beds in it and it only be half full. But if that's a women's cell, I can't put men there. You will always have some element of capacity. You have to build in more capacity than you think the real capacity number is. So that's 3 highlights of issues that we would have to deal with. And Marcus, I don't know if you want to come and introduce the consultants for us.
Thank you very much. I'm just straightforwardly, I want to introduce Mosley Design. Mosley Design has worked in South Carolina and across many states for many years in the corrections setting. They have partnered with a specialty team as well, and I will let them introduce them. They are trusted at getting it right and giving us what we need, giving agencies and counties what they need. So without any further ado, I'm going to ask Todd Davis and Jason and John and Stacy to come and present this idea to you. They're good at answering questions, so thank you for what you've done for us so far. We appreciate your work.
Thank you, Marcus, and Chairman, Committee. It's an honor and a pleasure to present our findings today to this committee. A lot of work went into this. The staffers and designers and stuff that worked. But of course, you can see the size of this room. I don't think you wanted me to bring all of those here to present to you today. So we brought the key people that were involved. Jason Hopkins, to my left, is a project manager on this project. Jason has probably designed the majority of the jails in South Carolina. I remember Blake Taylor telling me one time Jason was the only architect that ever made him question himself about understanding the standards. And Blake's been with the state for 40-some years, I think. So that's a compliment. Beside him is John Vandermossen. John heads up our detention planning division for us and deals with it. John comes from a background of running a facility in Greenville, which is a much larger than what you have here. So he's got many years of experience in that. And then beside him is Stacy Wiseman. We brought in, and we partner with them quite a bit. Their organization is called Trainer Designs, and they do a lot of specialty stuff. And you're going to hear her talk about especially the medical mental health unit that really is a big piece of addressing your needs. I think y'all have heard about the mental health issues, and that was a great team member to bring in. And then local civil, it's a Horry County resident, John Richards with Thompson and Hutton. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Jason and let you hear from start to finish how we went through this process and how we came up with what we had.
Okay, thank you very much. If I can figure out how to use this clicker. So here's basically our brief agenda. We're going to discuss existing facility condition assessment, bed projections, design options, site concepts, and then most unpopular cost estimates. So how do we start a project like this? We first have to take a really hard look at the existing facility. So J. Reuben Long was built in multiple phases over multiple years, with the oldest piece of it being built in 1986. Now, if your house was built in 1986, that doesn't sound all that old. If it's a jail, that is very, very old. Jails tend to age in dog years. They receive intensive 24/7 abuse. The people that live there are actively trying to destroy the building. So we've kind of broken this down into 4 different sections. And I'm not sure how familiar everyone is with the campus. There's a minimum security building that was designed as work release. There's an annex that contains a couple dormitories. The bow tie is part of the original housing and contains all the core functions for the building. And then the tower was built, I think, around 2010 or so. So it's kind of the newest part of the facility. So these are the things that we go in and look for. We look at mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and fire protection. So for mechanical, we're looking at whether it's rooftop units or chillers or boilers or ductwork. For electrical, we're looking at switchgear, generators, panels. Plumbing, we're looking at primarily fixtures and piping. And same thing with fire protection. We also look at it from the lens of South Carolina jail standards, which we're very familiar with. You know, does this facility or parts of it still meet South Carolina jail standards? We look at it from a building code perspective in terms of this building type is unique in that there are a lot of different firewalls and smoke compartments. We look at things like natural light. Is natural light part of the standards? Is that adequate? Outdoor recreation, which is required for inmates. ADA, which is federal legislation, Americans with Disabilities Act. And we look at also basic life safety systems. So on several different occasions, we toured the facility, studied the plans, documented all the systems. And from a very high-level overview, the minimum security building it's in decent condition. However, it's not secure. I mean, the windows and doors are basically commercial-grade construction. And unfortunately, Horry County does not have a need to house that type of inmate anymore. Annex is very similar. It's 2 dormitories. So all open bay, no cells. Once again, not a ton of need for that type of inmate. The bow tie, which is part of that original 1986 construction, is basically at the end of its useful lifespan. Most of the systems need to be replaced. I will compliment facilities maintenance. They've been running a good maintenance schedule. We're trying to get things replaced and switched out. But it's, in my opinion, like most of the systems would need to be replaced. There are a lot of sightline issues, which can be very dangerous in jails. You know, we deal with PREA, the Prison Rape Elimination Act, and there are tons of accessibility issues. The new tower, which was built, once again, around 2010, is in fairly good condition. It has a few little oddities to it, but nothing that needs to be majorly renovated. All right, so I'm going to turn this over to John to talk about some of how we came up with bed projections. see what our needs are.
I'm going to kind of give a brief overview of how we come up with the amount of beds that a facility needs, and this is kind of based on national standards we use, so it's recognized all throughout the United States. What we do is we request data from the agency, and like Todd explained, Horry County was very, very good at getting us this data. We went back over 10 years and analyzed all the admissions, the average length of stay. The average length of stay is the amount of time that an inmate typically stays in jail. If it's a murder case or something like that, it's going to be longer. If it's a misdemeanor charge, it's going to be shorter. Sometimes we'll see like a high average length of stay, and that normally leads to, there could be some backup with the courts or something like that. We did not notice that here. And then we also look at the average daily population, and all that is we go 12 months and we determine how many inmates are normally in the facility at one time. Once we analyze this data, we further refine it and we look at two terms, and I'll explain what they mean. One is called the peaking factor, and that peaking factor accounts for your lows and your highs. So Horry County is a lot different than the other counties in here in South Carolina because it's a tourist area. So you're going to have high inmate populations during the summer, and then the winter it kind of comes down again. So what the justice planners have to do is we have to accommodate for that to make sure that there's not inmates all over the floor in the summer, and then in the winter it reverses. After we do that, we look at what's called a classification factor. In a jail setting, not all inmates can be housed together. You have violent offenders who need to be kept separate from the non-violent offenders. You have misdemeanor charges that you want to keep together. You have gang members that you want to keep them separate from the general population. Medical, we're going to talk about a little bit further, but the medical inmates, you don't want to house those in general population. And what we see throughout South Carolina is most facilities are forced to house their mental health and their medical inmates in general population. If you can't do that, they're housing them in segregation, which actually makes their condition worse. Some of the first meetings that we sat down with the staff, we noticed that they seem to be on the cutting edge of trying to do better for the mental health inmates inside Horry County, which is a good thing. And we're very good at designing housing units to help their situation and not make it worse by putting them in a concrete cell with no access to natural daylight and things like that. The classification factor just means that you have to have enough beds in the facility to separate these people. The other gentleman did mention about the males and the female beds. That's a prime example. You have a dorm that holds 64 females, and there's only 30 in there. Those other beds are wasted. So we look at all that for the classification factors. So this is the kind of numbers that we use in order to calculate this. Also, you have to have space for inmates that have disciplinary problems, that act up, they're violent, they attack staff. Those have to be kept separate from even the other inmates. We look at housing units for that. We run those numbers. Protective custody is a big thing now, where you have people that come in that are accused of crimes that are high in the media right now, and they separate those until things die down. Some of those are involved, crimes against children and things like that. So the data showed us that Horry County's got a population growth of 3%. So we take that 3%, we kind of do our charts and go up and we increase the population by running those numbers. Then we go ahead and add what's called an 18% on top of that in there, and that covers the classification and the peaking. So in our study, it actually separates those. This is the beds, and then when you add classification and peaking, this is the total number. So basically, for Horry County, by 2025, of course, they need 1,018. 2030 was 1,180. 2035 was 1,368. And then 2040 was 1,586. And those could be done in phases, like we'll kind of explain further. Are there any questions about how we come up with these numbers?
Yeah, I'm looking at 2020, roughly 2020, when it dropped, almost 20 or 50%, and then it went right, it stayed there. Why did it stay there and then go back up?
It's COVID. So we
COVID?
noticed that throughout all the facilities, and that's a national trend.
Okay.
Facilities dipped down for COVID. Some went, after COVID was done, some went right up to the number they had before, But a lot of things changed during COVID as far as video arraignments, and a lot of video and technology came into place where maybe the judges didn't want to use that before, and now they use it. So some facilities, that number never reached back to the point. But that was the COVID numbers, and that we have to take that into account as well.
Thank you.
That was the main reason that we actually looked at 10 years versus of data versus our normal is 5 years. Normally we look at 5 years of historic data, but with COVID and the pandemic that hit and population drop, we thought it would be a little bit more accurate, so we went back 10 years of historic data to project forward.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So John has described your picture looking forward as to what you will need. Our next step was to track that with what you currently have, and those are the top 3 lines listed in gray up here. This provides not only your existing quantity of beds, however, it's really important to understand the type of beds, whether it's single, double, 4-bed, or your open dormitory beds. And we met extensively with the jail team in interactive work sessions to identify what are the right type of beds that you need moving forward. And how can we recalibrate what it is that we're providing as a part of this concept to meet those needs. And we identified the mental health, medical, and your female population as a part of that initial immediate request for the concept. And here our design team wants to commend Horry County for recognizing the specific needs of both your increased medical and mental health within your current population and how we can best address that. So here we're showing the first phase concept plan. This on the first floor will house the mental health population. Our goal is to provide the therapeutic environment similar to what Jason was describing with having natural light. This helps them not further decompensate, but it provides more stability for them. There's smaller units that are subdivided. However, we're positioning them in such a way that they can remain staff efficient. And what's important as a part of the therapeutic environment is to provide proper programs and treatment, staff spaces, different program rooms that they need to help stabilize their condition. It also creates a continuum of care so that the corrections officers will have a flexibility of different bed types to best meet their needs. And ultimately, this provides a safer jail for your entire facility. The second floor will have a medical clinic and dedicated infirmary beds. This includes negative pressure for infectious diseases. It also has some beds available that can accommodate a hospital bed that have the 3-sided access, as well as more accessible fixtures and beds available. We also are including 2 both a male and female detox housing units. So this is for those who are detoxing from alcohol or substance abuse. It gives them a dedicated housing unit so that they can be separate from the general population as they are detoxing. And what's also important to note on this floor is we do have a mix of male and female, so our design team will provide proper sound and sight separation between those. The third floor houses the female population. Right now, there's about 10 to 15% of your population that are female. Although this is smaller, representative of your entire population, they still have those needs of separation that John described. And so you'll see here that we have 4 different units for your pending and the different classification groups for the female population, as well as your support services. And then on the 4th floor, we are providing additional male beds to increase the capacity in the first phase. Site.
I'll be real quick on the site work. Back when the previous tower was built, there is a space on the existing campus for the new facility, for the new tower we're building. We'd have to do a little bit of work on the access road, and we would extend water and sewer utilities to it. There's an existing pond on the site that would need to be expanded a little bit. And with that, that's pretty much the wrap up for the site work.
Yeah, luckily there was some good future planning involved when that original tower was done. That's gonna make the site work a lot easier.
That's great.
And then part of our, the detention study included how does this project phase and how are we keeping that long-term vision 10 to 15 years out. So we have several options that show how Horry County can see this project through over the next 10 to 15 years. The first one shows, our first option includes the entire phase 1 as we've proposed in the detention study. And then this will get you through 2030 to about 2034. And then what you'll note here is that this option maintains the beds at the annex as currently configured. If you recall from Jason's earlier presentation, this is all open dormitory beds. The second phase then presents if we were to renovate the annex and bring that up to more secure construction, and instead of the open dormitory, convert that to cells. And so here is showing that initial phase, and then for the second phase with the renovation to the annex, it provides 80 beds. You'll notice that it is on the other end of the campus from where a majority of your housing is. But that second phase to meet your 2040 needs is 230 beds. The final option that we're presenting for Horry County, our phase 1 remains the same. However, the phase 2 will build out additional male bed capacities so that no housing needs to occur at the annex. And so as you'll see here in phase 2, now all of your beds are co-located. This allows for more staff efficient operation, and even the delivery of your meals and services are all co-located on one side of your campus.
And remember, saving the staff by relocating that into the main building, that's a reoccurring cost. So if we can save detention officer positions in our plan by not using that building anymore, you just can subtract that salaries out of that budget for the future years. That's one of the important things about bringing that over.
Okay, so clearly I drew the short straw in this presentation, getting to talk about costs. And let me caveat it with this. When you're looking at costs at this point in a project, looking at concept diagrams, it's difficult to be extremely accurate. So we're basically looking at rough order of magnitude type costs. Okay, so your house might be $200 a square foot, but we see detention centers being anywhere between $650 and $750, sometimes even higher, depending on local conditions, all these different things. So we probably ended up writing 10 different versions of cost estimates on this thing, and we want to show some of them to you in particular, so you can kind of understand where we are. And I'm having trouble seeing the screen and these numbers, but the minimum security building, the one that I talked about originally, is having commercial doors and locks and windows that anybody with any strength at all could break out of. If we were to look at upfitting that, we'd have to replace the plumbing, a lot of the finishes. Am I reading that correct? I'm sorry, is that? Say that. 6.5. Okay, yeah, thank you, this helps. My glasses are old prescription. Then we also talked about the annex, which Stacy was just talking about. It's all open bed dorms. Well, once again, that's not the type of beds this facility needs. So if we were to go inside of that and try to gut it and put cells in it, you're going to lose bed space. You can fit a lot more open bay dorms in a building than you can actual cells. So you would go from 128 dorm beds down to 80 cells, as near as we can calculate. So that's a loss of about 50 beds, which is not really the goal of this project, to lose beds.
One thing I did want to add is back when that annex was built, sentencing laws were a little bit different. You had inmates that were being admitted that were a lot different. So that was an adequate need at the time. You had that type of inmate at the time. So it's not like
back then, you built the wrong type of bed. It's just the nature of the crimes and the people have been admitted and the laws have changed. So what makes it not really usable now?
Yeah, accessibility upgrades, that's kind of all that would be included. Now, we talked about the bow tie, part of the original construction, be in 1986. This could, in theory, be renovated. It is not advisable, in my opinion. It's almost putting good money on bad. You're still not going to meet all the South Carolina jail standards. So to spend $32 million on a renovation of the bow tie, something that's beyond its useful life, to still not even be up to current standards, does not make a whole lot of sense to me personally. Now, the existing tower that was built not that long ago, we don't really see, we don't have a cost estimate for that because we don't think much of anything needs to be renovated there. The new tower that Stacy was describing and going through the floor plans on, at 574 beds, we've got that at about $130 million. Going into phase 2, when you would add the second building where the part of the bow tie was demolished, adding the additional 340 male beds to get you to your ultimate need, we have it around $55 million. Once again, these are rough order of magnitude costs. We would have to have more detailed designs to nail down the numbers and be more accurate. But if you look at the difference between phase 1 and phase 2, phase 1 has almost double the beds. It's a much more complicated layout because it's not, because it's medical and mental health housing. It's got the clinic as part of it. We would probably move central control from its current location into that new tower because central control is, it needs some work. It's arguably the most important part of the building, and it needs some help.
And what we would make it more modern, better camera systems, better intercoms, better, sometimes our control rooms, we can have sight lines going in and out of their areas. Also, we can beef up the security in it because that room right there, I think, Director Rose, if you can correct me, I think it was an old booking area. So it's not exactly the most secure room, and the last thing you want is for inmates to be able to access the master control room. So as part of the project, we would do a more modern with a lot more technology in it.
And generally speaking, I mean, other than the bow tie that is the housing part of the original building, most of it's in pretty good shape. Property storage is full, and that's very important. So I think we would need to look at expanding property storage. It's on an elevated slab, which kind of makes it difficult to bring in a heavy high density type unit. But we have structural engineers that can figure that out. The movement center, which they use to transport inmates, is in very rough condition. I think that may have been part of the original booking. So there are some various renovations that would get rolled into these cost estimates. Afraid to ask, but any questions? Yes, sir.
A couple times you've mentioned that the state standards, the state continually changes the standards, is that correct?
I wouldn't say they continually change them.
They were last updated in 2013, and they're currently being updated right now. For what I understand, and Director Rose may know a little more than I do, there's not a lot of major changes to them, but they were from 2013, and when they were redone in 2013, even the changes then were minor changes. It's kind of like terms change and things like that.
Are those recommendations or mandates?
They're mandates.
They're mandates.
How much does the state contribute to when the county has to build a new jail because they've changed the rules?
Sir, he was correct in his figures.
Zero.
I think we need to have a prayer meeting with the delegation sooner than later. If they're going to, they consistently tell us what to do and how to do it, but they take our money away, but they want us to spend more. So,
yes, sir. Some of the things that contribute, the state has standards for sizes of day rooms. Okay, now when you're housing more people in a day room than it was intended to house, now it's too small. Same thing with a cell. A cell has a certain minimum size for a certain number of people. If you're double and triple bunking that, now you're out of compliance. So a lot of those original numbers we looked at, what the capacity of the bow tie is, once you renovate that, you lose some of that space if you try to correct those issues.
I assume y'all have multiple customers. Have you already built a building that's really fantastic for someone else that's in our similar situation? Could we pay the fees and copycat a building, or do we really have to start from scratch and design everything from the very get-go?
I'll let Todd go with this, but I'll say that what we have come up with working with Trainer is one of the most unique solutions I have seen. I don't see where there's a copycat version we can cut and paste for.
Now, yeah, if you want to look at some housing use, we can give you some examples of the housing use. And I want to go back on the standards a little bit too, and I'm definitely not trying to defend them, but most of the standards in there are to make it safer for the inmates and the staff. So if some of those standards weren't in place, you would have some of the smaller counties that would not do anything for the inmates, and that's the last thing you want. And like Jason said, as far as the sizes and stuff, if they didn't have square footage requirements, you would have counties that said, I'm not spending any money, we're going to put 50 people in an area designed for 5. And that's what currently some facilities are doing, but they're getting written up every year. So if they go out and build new, they have to bring it up to the standards. So the standards, when you ask if they change, they have one for pre-1980, there's a set of standards, and if you built after 90-something, there was a set of standards, and in 2013. So those were the changes.
It's actually, the standards are actually set to try to help you against federal lawsuits for the way of housing, these offenders. Now, back to your question about other facilities, we've done a ton in South Carolina, but nothing that really addresses the medical mental health need. Now, since this study started, now we're doing other jails. York County, we're adding a medical mental health, and that copy, and Marcus actually, Marcus has got to set the bench. This has been a problem for years, and nobody really addressed it. And Director Rhodes really, like Jason said earlier, has been on the cutting edge of trying to address these. So to tell you, yes, we've got a building somewhere else like this.
Can we copyright any of this stuff?
I mean, I would say in terms of the therapeutic environment that we will be providing, that is similar and replicable from other designs that we have worked on. We are calibrating this to your specific population, so it's not as though we're just saying we're taking 148 bed and copying it over here, you may only need 24. And so we, using the data that the jail team provided to us, we're making, we're just making those slight adjustments to right size for your particular facility.
I think our goal is, between now and our spring retreat, is to work with the sheriff, Chief Fox, Director Rhodes, and bring back a recommendation to you for the course to go. It would include beginning design work in that, because obviously we can't start construction until we go through the design period. There's some time frame of that, but we will certainly be looking at design cost in 2027 fiscal year, and then with projection to begin construction after that, and with a financing plan associated with that.
The one's the next meeting, if you're talking about the one prior.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to move into executive session. We need to state what that's for.
discussion and receipt of legal advice in negotiations incident to propose contractual arrangements. No votes were taken, no decisions were made.
Anything else? I'd like to make a motion, we close.
April 14th will be our next meeting.
Valentine's Day.